A warm welcome to everybody who's joined us. This is Shardul Dabir, the Innovation Specialist at the Good Food Institute India. We'll get started with our session at 6, not 5. So please get all your teammates to attend if they have missed out on the email. And we'll get started in 2-3 minutes. And as usual, you can submit your questions through the Q&A box and any comments or any participation. This is a very participatory workshop, so we expect a lot of engagement with you throughout the presentation. There will be prompts. You can give your feedback, your comments, your answers through the chat box. I'll curate all of that and convey them back to Ajay. And make sure that you have all the questions noted down and submitted through the Q&A button. We have a small Q&A slot towards the end as well. So we'll start in 2-3 minutes. Thank you for your patience till then.
Welcome. You have been part of so many workshops and webinars in last 2 weeks, and so I'll quickly introduce Ajay Batra. If you have seen the poster, by designation, he's Executive VP for Venture Fastrack at Wadhwani Foundation. But more importantly, I would like to say that he wears multiple hats. He helps to build organizations. He advises numerous startups. He's a design thinker with years of experience in consulting and operations. So I have been part of one or two of his BMCs and have learned each time. I hope that you will learn as much today and will be able to apply a lot of those concepts in coming days for your proposal, and not only for your proposal, but going ahead as you keep on working in whichever field you are. So we have introduced CI earlier, but so I'll not really go into that. You can look up is what we do at ci.co. I'll take it forward with Sonia. If you want to add something, please go ahead. Else over to you, Dr. Batra.
Okay, thank you, Sushmita, and thank you, Shardul. And as we jump in, let me share my screen, please. And we can all see this, right?
Yes.
Great. So good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here and welcome to this session. I know there's been a series of workshops and conversations on not just a topic, but a series of topics that I think are so very interesting and so very relevant. So once again, thank you for giving your time. I hope to take our conversation forward around business models and innovation today. But more importantly, I want to thank the Good Food Institute India and CIA-Co for triggering such a conversation and triggering such a thought process in the country. These are definitely challenging times. I hope all of you are keeping well. I hope those around you are keeping well. The fact is, wellness, health, and physical wellness or mental wellness and health in general has become so important in the last few months. It has brought to fore so many different things that we didn't think about in our lives. And certainly it has brought a thought around back to basics. So focus on planet, focus on environment, focus on sustainability. They were always great topics to be part of. I think the world and the reality today calls for much greater action. So I think the context is just right. We're talking about an area which is future of food, I think future of humanity, to be honest. And once again, the Smart Protein Challenge, of course, is an effort in that direction to take us closer to some solutions that are relevant for the world, certainly for India and definitely for the world. And the revolution that you see here, of course, that's Good Dot, is here to stay. Maybe relatively early days for India. And I think that's an opportunity for us, because this is the time when a lot of disruption and early movers can happen in the space. So whether it's Evo or the Good Dot or the Good Milk, I think they're just very few names compared to what our country needs. Purely from investment standpoint, it's estimated that this is more than $100 billion market in the next 8 to 10 years. So I'm once again excited. I'm glad to have this conversation. It's as much learning for me as for anybody else to see some of the work that's happening here. I've been involved with a few startups in this space, but I think this is a good deep dive to be going in together with you. So once again, welcome. We're going to jump right in. Our topic is around smart protein. Our topic is around being innovative. It is certainly about creating something that somebody out there needs, hopefully, and does a good job of. That's what we picked up in the design thinking workshop, I hope. But more importantly, how do you take something that's in your mind or in your lab or on paper? How do you take it to the world? How does any idea become this game changer that affects all of our lives? That's really the crux of what we're going to talk about today. And business models is, as you will see, is one of the many tools we're going to be talking about to help you do that, to help you transform that idea or maybe idea of an idea today into something more real. So here we are, folks. We're going to jump in and okay, here we go. So yeah, nothing is impossible. So the irony is not lost on us. It is mission possible for all of us here, and it's not just about a few kind of food item that you see in some of these images. We're going to actually talk about categories that are relevant to you and certainly relevant to the world at large. So we're going to step back a bit, take a big picture view. What does it really mean to be the innovator who may become an entrepreneur tomorrow? Who is an entrepreneur? And then if that's the journey in your head, and by the way, I understand that some of you may want to jump in right away. Some of you may want to just take some time, soak it all in, reflect on it, maybe a year, maybe 5 years down the line, say, hey, maybe I'm ready for a plunge. And hopefully all that you're experiencing through workshops and conversations should help us all out in this journey. Now, folks, we have an hour and a half. It will be a little fast. If it's going too fast, please enter in the chat, as Shardul was saying. But it's also a conversation I want to have, to be honest. I want all of us to learn from each other, debate ideas, maybe agree, and it's okay to disagree too. So I'm going to ask you along the way to speak up. So requesting the organizers to help me unmute you. But certainly the chat box is available for you to type away. And our friendly organizers are keeping an eye on the chat that's coming in. So please do participate, questions, comments, issues, and certainly a little more about what you're doing we want to get into. Okay, before we jump in, okay, let's start with a little quiz. Just middle of the week, early evening, before we do a deep dive into some serious stuff. Let me quickly give you a short story, and all you have to do, put it in the chat box if you want to. I'm going to open the chat window right here. Here's a story of an Indian who was studying at Stanford. And you have to give me the name of this person, of course. That's a quiz. I'm going to show you pictures or tell you stories. And unfortunately, in the middle of his program, he heard that his father had passed away in India. And his father was running a very, very successful business in soaps and vegetable oils. So this Indian student comes back, takes over his dad's business, and in about 10 years or so, converts it and transforms it into a superstar of an IT company. Who am I talking about? Any guesses? Okay, folks, I can't see the chat for some reason. So either you speak up or type in and somebody please read it out to me.
Somebody says Wipro.
Okay, Wipro is good. Absolutely right. And Mr. Premji. And folks, by the way, this is an easy one. This is just a warm up. This was a easy one for you to handle. Let's see if you can recognize this person. Relatively easy, I think, given the audience and the conversations. Anybody? Who is this other person? In a very, okay, I don't want to give away the hint. Anyone?
Yeah, they say it's the founder of Beyond Meat, but can you say the name?
Okay, somebody guess. Okay, I'll give you a hint. There's some color in his name.
Yeah, Ethan Brown. Few people have
Ethan,
responded.
thank you. Can you give me the names of who responded?
Yeah, Manjari and Kranti.
Manju and Kranti, well done. Absolutely, Ethan Brown and absolutely Beyond Meat. You can't miss that logo. It's everywhere. Okay, well done. Okay, we are moving well. Okay, who is this lady? Who is this lady?
Now it's getting tougher because even
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
You
Because
don't
even I
know?
don't know that.
Guess, Marty. It's okay. Okay, let me give you a hint, everyone. She runs a very successful startup enterprise now, which is called Sheroes, which actually creates women's communities and offers them both personal and professional opportunities in life. Come on. Anyone?
Nope,
No?
no answers for this one.
No, that's okay. Sairi Chahel. Look her up. Great story, a life story. Chahel. Very dynamic, very progressive. Okay, you got to get this one right. Folks, who is this gentleman? Anyone? Does anybody want to speak? You can unmute. Shardul, they can unmute themselves or you would need to do it?
I could do that. You can raise your hand and I can unmute you so you can participate, guys. Or you can obviously use the chat function if it's easy for you to reply.
Okay. Folks, this gentleman, well known. I'll have to give you a hint. Nobel Peace Prize holder. Almost 15 years ago now. No? Hint, Bangladesh. Hint, Grameen Bank. Come on, folks, you got to get this. No? Any guesses? Okay, Muhammad Yunus formed.
Yeah, we got some responses, Muhammad Yunus. Actually,
Muhammad
7,
Yunus?
8 of them now. Yeah.
Oh, well done, folks. Well done. Of course, in many ways considered father of microfinance and all of that. Okay, maybe last one and maybe very relevant to this audience. Hint. Shardul, is anybody getting this?
Yeah. No. People are getting it, so we don't need a hint. Let's just see how many people reply back with this because this is like an obvious one.
Yeah, and you already seen the logo at the top.
Yeah, everybody
Okay.
said
I've given away
Abhishek
the hint. I've given away the hint
Sinha.
right there.
Everybody said Abhishek Sinha. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Of course, very, very well recognized entrepreneur in this space, good dot, and all of the other good stuff. Well done, folks. Now, you see the range here from Wipro to Grameen Bank to Good Dot. What's common between all of them? And a whole host of others we could have mentioned. There is some common denominator that brings them all together. That's why they're on the screen today.
Yeah,
Any thought?
people say entrepreneurs, but yeah, that's part of it.
Very good. Some more? I agree. They are entrepreneurs.
Social
and
entrepreneurs. People say they're
social
social
entrepreneur. Okay. Mr. Prem, one can, I'm not sure he like that, but nevertheless, he also runs a foundation, by the way, so maybe he's okay with it. So you almost
People
there.
are saying they kind of set a trend in the sector that they were in and kind of really changed the.
Very true. They are trailblazers in their own spaces, but fundamentally, in their own way, using whatever they know best and what they have a passion for, they are trying to make this world a better place. You do it by having great protein-based solutions, or you go about helping women across all economic boundaries, or you create this big giant called Wipro. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. So fundamentally, they're all change makers. They are all entrepreneurs. So we will not distinguish. Often when we have these conversations on entrepreneurs, people say, well, I don't know, I'm a scientist. I don't know. Somebody will say, no, I don't even have a technology background. Aren't all entrepreneurs and startups supposed to be these, tech geeks? The answer is no. We operate from a very broad definition of entrepreneur, somebody who initiates something to help others, really as broad as that. And which is why I think everybody in the room is a potential entrepreneur today. Having said that, just some yeses. How many people on the call today want to, at some point, maybe today, maybe later, want to do their own startup? Just say yes. Let's see how many yeses you quickly give us in the next 10 seconds.
A raise of hand can work.
or raise of hand is also fine.
Wow, that number is going up really fast.
Really?
Yeah, 35 people have already said they want to be an entrepreneur.
Oh,
And you can
excellent.
see the raise of hands on your right side. Awesome. So yeah, about
Awesome.
half, yeah,
About half.
about 40 of them.
Excellent. So about half of you are in or either thinking of that or on that journey, and you're probably able to relate to this. I was going to say kid, but let me say entrepreneur, and do notice, don't miss the shine in his eyes. A lot of hope and excitement. You see the idea he has in his head, right? Which is of course charging him up, and he's proceeding towards his launch, which is on the right. And it's not just pure optimism. He's kind of prepared. He has a bike to help him in the journey. He has a backpack of hopefully goodies, and he's kind of realistic, right? He's not expecting to get there immediately. There's a journey and there's a little bit of a climb. So I think he's okay, right? And you'd relate to that. You have an idea and you really are so excited and charged up that you want to quickly proceed towards your destination, your dream of converting that into a real startup. Fantastic. Unfortunately, the reality is a little different. And I show this not to discourage you. I show this to prepare you that the journey of being an entrepreneur is super exciting. There are very few things, if you ask entrepreneurs out there, that are so important and meaningful to them in life as their journey of an entrepreneur. Of course, each will also tell you over a beer, perhaps, all the pitfalls and heartaches and pain they've had in the process. But that's the whole point. It's never, ever linear. It's only in graphics and movies that they say you have an idea and suddenly you become a unicorn. Never happens in real life. The journey is never ever linear. Two, journey always takes longer than you think. And three, it helps having somebody on your side, which is I'm so glad two remarkable institutions like Good Food and CIR together here today to handhold somebody who's kind of known that be prepared. There is a little lake along the way and you're not ready for it, or be prepared, there's going to be showers and you don't have an umbrella with you and all of that. So folks, be prepared for a journey that is invariably hard. It will test your patience, but that's where the crux of this workshop comes in today. And I'm building a little bit on the design thinking as well. You have to be really working on an idea that makes sense to you and the world. If you do that, you will not see all the hiccups. You will only see the good stuff. And the questions, of course, everybody has. All entrepreneurs have the same questions. What do I really do? What is the first thing I should be doing? Should I quit school, college? Shall I quit my job? Shall I invent something? Shall I file a patent? Shall I own 4 patents before I do something? Shall I hire somebody in marketing? Should I hire a coder because I'm creating some tech-based solution? All these are very valid, relevant questions, and we'll see if we can get some fundamental answers today. Now, the world around, of course, is going through some grave situations. But the fact is, if I just forget for a moment, maybe March, April, when I saw so many of the startups that we deal with in really crisis mode, many have figured things out, many are still working on it. But by and large, the kind of resilience I'm seeing with Indian startups is absolutely exemplary. There's a reason, right? We are, at least in tech world, we are number 3 ecosystem in the world. And you look at other ratings like Startup Blink, etc. We're up there. Sometimes the top 10, sometimes top 20, but more than the ranking per se, there's recognition that India has both the talent and the market to do great startups in all fields, especially the field that we are talking about here. Having said that, and I want to bring a dose of realism in our conversation today. It is a sad reality, not just Indian, but across the board. Sometimes north of 90% startups will fail in the first couple of years. It is a fact. Now, depending on which geography, what stage, what technology number, will hover maybe a 70 here or 80 there, but that's the ballpark we're looking at. Very high numbers. Why? Startups have been around forever, right? I remember doing my first startup way back. It wasn't even called a startup. We said new business. That's okay. But startup as a phrase has been around last decade or so, but businesses have been around forever, right? And they always start small and become big, hopefully along the way. Give me your reason. Why do you think so many startups fail? There are many reasons. Your top reason. Let's hear. Again, either talk or please chat. Number one reason you think startups fail is? Are we getting something in the chat, Shardul?
Yes. So lack of vision, consistency, they lose their vision down the track, what they started with. They quit easily in face of problems, lack of commitment. There's no structured approach. And they just give up they quit basically rather than persevering through. There's lack of innovation and
Lack of long-term planning, not
yeah.
knowing what market wants, um, no proper approach, not a strong core team. Someone has also written culture and social norms. They don't know how to use initial profit. Good if you go to profit, yes.
Yeah.
No proper management, not being resilient enough, not enough
Okay. Okay, I get
planning.
it.
Yeah, something
Okay,
like that. Yeah.
I get the drift, and you know what? Between the dozen odd that I heard, you covered it. You covered all of them. So kudos, well done. Uh, so what I'm going to share with you is what we hear as top reasons. So you're right. From not knowing what to do Thursday morning tomorrow to not having the right team to perhaps, I don't know if somebody mentioned not having enough funds to not having vision, all very valid. However, I think I heard it only once. The top reasons we see, and by the way, I'm not just a startup mentor, I'm also an investor in startups. And not all of my investments have done well, so some have tanked. And these are learnings that I picked up as well as I've picked up from my colleagues. Number one reason, I think somebody did mention, right? At least there was one person who mentioned that there is no market need. Now, this is different from saying it is not innovative. Innovation can be something you do, you bring about a change and hopefully a dramatic change in something, right? I'm drinking water from the water bottle, and who knows, you can come up with a supremely innovative bottle that is small, keeps water cold, keeps it warm if you need, maybe adds vitamins along the way. But if nobody's going to buy it, it's just an invention. It's not even an innovation. So number one thing I want you to think about is, yes, invent, yes, innovate, yes, be creative. Please create a superstar of a patent around whatever you want to think about. But please, if you want to take it into the startup world and not just leave it in the lab as R&D, you got to think market, you got to think customer, you got to think who's going to use it. Everything else you kind of mentioned along the way. I don't know if many people mention marketing, but sometimes people put that as number 2 or 3, by the way. It's
Yeah, people
always
usually call it smaller markets, smaller needs, a very niche customer base. Yeah.
yeah, they're there. But folks, keep in mind, and this is going to be our North Star today, just keeping these broadly in mind so that we learn. The idea, again, I don't want you to feel disappointed in some of the conversation I'm having with you. The intent here is to sensitize you and hopefully to prepare you so that we, all of us, don't keep making the same mistake, right? So how do you then take an idea and convert it into this fantastic startup that everybody loves, right? How do you create the next Beyond Meat? There's actually a process. It's not just chaos. Startups are infamous for their chaos and lack of structure, but there is actually science behind this, art as well. But there is science on how do you launch. And we've actually taken the learning the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years and created our own little roadmap, which is called the startup maturity model. It takes you through stages all the way. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. Given our focus today, while there is a structure and some other forum we can talk about it, I'm just going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about only 3 things. Number 1 is find a problem worth solving. Now, the language is very important, folks. We didn't just say find a problem. We're saying find a problem whose solution somebody cares about. And that somebody is not just your best friend and your spouse and your aunt and your family, but there's people out there, right? who will say, wow, this is great. I need this. I want this. And yes, I'll pay you for it. So contrary to popular perception, startups don't begin with ideas. I mean, they do sometimes. Often people begin with ideas. But if you want to avoid some bit of the heartache and reinventing the wheel and wasting your time and money, I'd strongly recommend backtrack a bit. Please think like somebody who's looking for problems, really. And I'm not saying in a negative way, because the problem is also an opportunity in disguise, right? So very, very interesting comment people have made about falling in love with the problem. If you really understand the problem, you will find not when. I'll guarantee you, if your problem is well stated, and hopefully all that was done in design thinking, you can find not one but 10 solutions. So please tell me, not a solution, which problem did Uber solve? Or solving? Let's see, please type. What is the problem that Uber is solving? And also keep in mind, I'm saying problem, but every problem is also an opportunity, and we'll come to that. Any answers in the chat, Shardul?
Yeah, not getting taxis on time, convenience, the problem of owning your car and maintaining it, just getting done.
Correct. Excellent. Actually,
transportation at will.
See, again, so I'm hearing both problems and solutions. For example, not getting the cab when you want, where you want is a problem. The convenience of having a cab is a solution. So just keep in mind. But nevertheless, you're getting there. The problem is exactly, it started with not being able to get a black luxury car, and of course then became into an app that we all use. Okay, what is the problem beyond meat is solving? Problem. What problem did they see around themselves when they looked around, talked to people? They noticed people are struggling with something. What was that something? Any thoughts?
Anybody, if you would like to speak up, feel free to put your hand up and I can just give you, speaking access. So somebody said people were looking to shift to plant-based alternatives, but they were unable to do that because there was no other alternative in the market. Somebody says animal slaughter. Somebody says they're solving for taste. They're not focused on anything else. They're just giving up tastier, healthier option. People are saying unsustainability, waste of resources, antibiotic resistance, all of the factors that are related to factory farming.
Yeah, cool. So good responses right there. But I'm just paraphrasing. There is no the problem statement, but the problem statements are far beyond meat, are largely around this. I enjoy meat, the texture, flavor, taste, but I just can't literally digest the fact that it's meat. There's got to be another way around it. So that was a problem that Beyond Meat and many others have since solved. Salesforce, of course, SaaS-based, software for managing on the cloud, a whole host of sales and marketing issues. Have you heard of Dollar Shave Club, anyone?
Yeah.
Which problem are they solving? And they're doing rather well, by the way. Shardul? Bolo. Which problem are they solving?
So I think they're solving for so it's basically getting high quality. So it's basically people who don't want to change and go in the market and buy 10 different items, right? They're kind of giving a subscription for all of it in a go. So convenience is definitely one. High quality products so problem of choosing, going and having to buy, shop, all of those things is one perspective that I see that they're solving for.
Correct. Because it's a disposable, you need it every 10 days, whatever. The hassle of trying to shave one morning and figuring out it's just not working, right? That hassle of being able to, of spending so much money on something that should be so easy is one of the problems they're solving. It gets delivered to you. Now, folks, you may already have a solution in your mind. As long as, in the startup jargon, there's a phrase called a solution looking for a problem. It's very interesting, but very powerful. Often people get married to a solution a little too early in the game. They haven't really thought much about, I have this new bottle I'm inventing, but really, why would somebody want to switch? Why would somebody want to take on my protein-based solution and not whatever they're doing today? So please spend a moment to, if not fall in love, at least get to understand the problems you're solving. The closer you get to the problem, closer you will be to opportunities around it. And we are all programmed to think, right? In all business schools, etc., they say, don't bring a problem, bring solutions to us. So we are programmed to think solutions. So I'm requesting you to park that sense in for a little bit and get into the problem zone, just so that you are able to understand what you're dealing with. Okay, now we're going to make you do stuff that is absolutely relevant to why everybody's here today. Now, Shardul, my assumption is correct. Everybody's in one of these 5 groups.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I want whoever's, you have 5 groups. From each group, I would love to hear at least one person speak to a problem in that group. So those who are working on plant-based meat, please share with us one problem that you'd love to solve. You may not have a solution yet. I'm not looking for solutions. Which is the problem that you're going after? Just type away, please, or speak if you want to. Love to hear 5 such things, one from each. And Shardul, if they come in, just read them out, please.
Absolutely. Just take a minute, everyone. Think about it, and then start sending your responses in through the chat box.
And remember, we're not looking for solutions yet. Problem.
So somebody's trying to solve for the cholesterol problem of consuming animal-based meat and trying to reduce that by offering plant-based meat offerings.
Fair.
And somebody is innovating in plant-based dairy because their team thinks that animal abuse through the dairy industry is really a big problem. Protein deficiency in India is at large, so somebody is therefore looking for powering plant-based solutions as a category to make protein-rich ingredients. Cost of red meat in India is high, and people want to make it more affordable and a healthier alternative.
Excellent.
And so somebody just said there's just no alternative in any of these categories. So that's why that was a big problem they noticed in the market. Like you said, very few companies given the size of Indian market and people who would shift to these diets. So
the problem / opportunity is so huge, it's a gaping hole. And you want to just get in and everything becomes an opportunity. So great. Folks, I'm glad to hear some of your responses. And as you go deeper into each category and spend time understanding what's going on, I'll guarantee you each category will have 10, 15, 20 problem statements. And I'm sure maybe somewhere in the program, Shardul, this will get, will bubble it up, right?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm not getting into the startup maturity model has only 5 steps, but it has like 80 practices. I'm not going there today. The idea is to just leave you with some thoughts. 3 steps. We looked at step 1, figure out what you're trying to solve. Step 2, who are you solving it for? Because you want to be very careful. Are you trying to bring a solution that is so dear to your heart that you're not being as objective about it? So let's look at it. What does it really mean? And you may have already discussed it in the Sunday workshop, so we'll do it quickly. Tell me, let's hear from you. Who is the customer for Byju's? Please throw your responses out. Or put them out.
So people are saying students. People are saying students from class 10 and 12 who are trying to prepare for competitive exams. Some people say parents. Some people say just learners and adapters of digital learning in general. So that's a broad category. People are saying students and teachers and parents, all 3. Working parents is a specific category in that. I think somebody says anybody who's eager to learn is kind of the larger customer base. And people who are unsatisfied with education curriculum or the way education system is in India, or homeschooled people. Yeah.
Correct. Actually, I'm glad. It's pretty broad, and you've nailed very broad audiences as well as 3 specific ones, right? Students, parents, teachers. I'll comment on it in just a second. I want to throw up one more at you. For Oyo rooms, who are their customers, or who is their customer if it's singular? What do you think?
So people are saying regular travels, teenagers, couples, travelers in search of stays, millennials, small size businessmen who have to travel a lot across Indian cities, tourists. Most of them say travelers.
Okay, interesting. Is anybody said property owners? Just curious.
No, nobody said that.
Okay, we'll
But
come to
yeah,
that.
somebody said hotels who fail to attract enough people. So in a way,
Uh,
it's yeah.
Innovates there. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to hear that at least those two segments. Again, we'll touch upon this in a second. So for this Born Vita for kids, who is the customer?
People are saying parents, especially moms, young children who get attracted by little champs and stuff like that. Parents who want nutritious drink for kids, short children. I think that's Complan though. I don't know. Yeah, mostly
Okay,
all of the responses are around this.
fair enough.
Stubborn children. Yeah.
Interesting. I would have loved to have more conversations around it, but anyhow, folks, excellent. I think across the three, you covered wide range, and you've given me enough ammunition to make the point I wanted to make. In traditional definitions, especially those of us who are from business schools, etc., they will define customer very narrowly. Usually, it is somebody who pays you the mullah. Usually, that's one side. The other side is anytime you call somebody, tag somebody a customer, invariably as a business, as a venture, as an enterprise, even as an R&D lab, you pay a little bit more attention to the business as compared to other folks in your ecosystem. Now, the world is changing, and the definition of customer is also changing. So you're right. Have you seen the Shah Rukh Khan ad for Byju's? Who is Shah Rukh Khan talking to? Just listen to the words he uses on those ads. He's actually talking to the parents. The kid is always around a little bit chit chat here and there, but by and large, he's saying, today's kids want to know, they want to use technology, etc. So knowing very well, parents are not using the app, but they're certainly paying. And sometimes it's targeted at teachers, and teachers are influencing. They're not using, they're not paying, but it helps him if the kids are Baiju trained, if you will. So for Baiju's, perhaps all of those are customers. For Oyo, the traveler plus the hotel, the property owner. Guess who pays Oyo? The traveler. Guess what? Oyo pays the property owner. So while Oyo says they are my customer, again, they may use a different word for it, right? They may say it's a partner, it's a stakeholder. But very interesting. Oyo or other companies will also say, no, a property owner is a customer to me. And guess what? I pay my customer. Very interesting. Similarly, for other items, very classical example used in startup world is dog food, right? The end user is the dog, but the buyer, the owner, the lover of pets, of course, has to be satisfied too. So you got to be very clear about your customer and who are you solving the problem for. Let me go back to what I said earlier. If it's plant-based meat substitutes, really, is it for anybody? Is it for certain kind of users, certain age profile? Is it for human? Is it not for humans? You got to figure that out. And this is the new definition. Thanks to all the multi-sided businesses that are out there. Customer continues to be somebody who pays you, but it's often also somebody who doesn't pay you. But you got to keep that person's needs in mind. That's how you develop a good business. When you offer somebody something to somebody, and that somebody is important, and the solution is important too. So I'm going to share with you a quick template. You will have this. I know your proposals are due. Shardul, in how much time?
That's just about 9 days now, 25th of September.
Okay, so I'm going to leave this template with you. In fact, the entire deck I can leave behind. But I want to share with you a simple mechanism by which you can actually understand your customer better. And if you've noticed, we haven't started talking about business model yet. The whole idea of the workshop was business model. But business models don't exist in isolation. Business models exist in the context of the problem you're solving and who you're solving for. Otherwise, it's a theoretical concept, which is why business models often change dramatically because some of the pre-work hasn't been done. We're getting there. So I'm going to give you an example throughout the presentation today, a little different from some of the interest areas, but I think it's a little more generic. So this is an example of a real startup called Savart. In very simple words, Savart helps a common person invest in stock market and mutual funds, minus all the jargon and complexities. And they do everything for you. Just tell them what you want, and very, very simple. So they went about this exercise to say, who is my customer, right? They figured out that there are actually many customers out there. They were rural households, they were working professionals, they were businesses. So they did a lot. They actually went talked to, it shows 100 here, but they actually ended up talking to more than 500 potential customers. And they came up with 4 segments that were important to them. I'm showing you only one, based on real work they did by being on the ground. This is not done through surveys, by the way. They were out there, villages, towns, cities, colleges, companies, cafeterias, malls, just went out there to understand, hey, who are you? And they came up with one segment they wanted to go after, which is this age group, 30 to 45, some level of income. And they said, what are your needs? And a little bit about the person in terms of their social behavior. What are their needs? And by the way, here's the difference. They could have very easily said, listen, which stocks you want to buy? How much return do you want? Said, no, 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 no. End of the day, what is the need that a stocks or portfolio serve? The need to have wealth, need to have savings. That's why it's about. What is the need? Well, I want to have savings because I want to do this fancy vacation. I want to buy a house. I want to send my kids abroad for studying, whatever. What are your needs? Much higher level conversation than saying which mutual fund you want to buy. What is stopping you from investing in the market today? Well, it's too complicated. I don't have an MBA. I don't even have the time to do all this. And these investment bankers keep calling me, but they're far too expensive. So what do you want? Well, give me a solution that's easy. I can do it on the app. I could be at dinner. I could be visiting friends, and I can quickly figure out. Just like a book an Uber, I should be able to do stocks and mutual funds. This is what you're seeing is a very simplified version, of course. And I would encourage you to start simply only. This is what they learned by talking to hundreds of their customers. What do they want in life? Who are they? Where do they live? What do they do? And what do they want in life? Really powerful. Again, as part of your proposal, you may not actually talk to customers, but if you show that in your intent, you need to do this, chances are your proposal will get better attention. So these are some of the questions I'm going to share with you later on as a template. Let's hear a couple of examples at least. I'm very curious. Let's hear from plant-based seafood group. Can you name 1 or 2 customers/users that you might target? We didn't hear much from the seafood category last time.
Yeah, drop it in. Yeah, wow. Somebody says medium to high spenders, 20 and above age group, urban flexitarians with disposable income to experiment with new food choices, educated class with a strong emerging ethic, and flexibility in lifestyle changes for health and environment. That's quite detailed.
Excellent. Excellent. Those
Yeah.
are good
Other people are also saying urban consumers 25 to 40, people allergic to seafood, but love the taste, so previously had it, now cannot have it. People who cannot afford or, can easily make, it's not convenient for them to go and get seafood, especially people in landlocked areas, etc.
Oh, excellent. So great. I'm loving the fact that you're describing your customer both in terms of their demographics, 30, 40-year-old living in cities, plus more importantly, their choices and behaviors. Want to lead a good lifestyle, want to be healthy, want to be seen as leading a good lifestyle, want to be socially relevant in their circle. All that is great to know. And again, from your innovation to your customer is an iterative journey. It never happens. You figure out the customer, you figure out a solution, off you go, or do it the other way around. You start with one, go to the other, and go back and forth till you figure out really what works. And what works is what you really need to build a business around. That's why the next tool will help you. It's a canvas. Okay, there's a poll. You can answer it as we go along. So, folks, we're going to talk about a canvas. And when you think of canvas, what comes to your mind? Just the word canvas? Anyone? What is the canvas?
Somebody said they relate canvas with big picture thinking. Somebody said open space. to fill up with ideas. Somebody say it's more about strategizing and influencing people. Somebody says a whole, complete, well-rounded picture. Um, any more responses? High-level overview,
Great. So I'm picking up
starting
two
point,
threads.
a starting
Yeah,
point
yeah.
where you
I'm
can
picking up
draw your imagination.
Perfect. I'm picking up two threads which are supremely relevant. So thank you, folks. One, it is a big picture. Canvas is like a blueprint, stepping back, 360 holistic view. Two, by definition, all canvases are blank, right? So you do what you want to do with it. The third thing, which may not be true in a canvas, is that you can also change things as you go around. You can erase, fix things, move things. It gives you that flexibility. That's what a business model canvas is. We're going to introduce you to a concept, which was, of course, launched through this book, but we've adapted it to our practical usage in the India context, but now we're taking it to the world. But principles are the same. So business model canvas is coming to you in a little different avatar because we've learned there are certain things that work better. It's called the startup operating canvas. Principles remain the same. It helps you take a big picture view of your proposed business. This is not, you haven't launched the business yet. You're like designing, you're painting, you're creating the buildings. Even before you put the first brick down, you got to have a blueprint, right? So this is the blueprint that you're making. And you start left to right. And what is the first thing you notice? If you're building a business and this is your blueprint, what is the first thing you got to think about? What do you see? Do you jump into the business or do you go, where do you start this conversation?
Customer. People are saying
Absolutely.
competition, product, customer.
Customer. We will get to competition, but the start here says, let's figure out the customer first. And we've already talked about it. Who is the customer? And I'm going to use the same example as before. Who is the customer? Same. This is the profile. This is what he wants to do in life. If you don't know your customer, your BMC, your operating canvas will throw you off. You will spend so much time doing back and forth if you haven't fixed this. And it's okay to get your customer wrong and go forward and come back. That's the nature of doing this. But please have some initial sense of your customer persona. Who is the person? And the tool I showed you about is the Know tool. Get to know your customer. It's kind of like your KYC. So get a fix on your customer or customers, maybe multiple segments. Post that, you see those 5 dots, while there are many details, those 5 dots are super critical for you to design an effective business or venture. And again, you may be thinking of invention, but at some point, if you want to take that invention to the market, you got to think of who's going to use it. Could be in a retail mode, individuals, could be in a B2B mode, maybe government of India, maybe a big company like Reliance, who knows, or ITC in the food business. Once you do that, one of the first things you look about is what is the solution that you want to build? Now you understood the customer, you understood the needs of the customer, the problems, if you will. What is your solution? And the solution this particular startup came up with, hey, I'm going to create an app-based solution which has 120 parameters basis which it will recommend buy Reliance, sell X, whatever you want to do. So there is some investment algo that goes in and it'll be app-based. That's my solution. That's the product I'm building. Okay, if that's the product, what will it offer to your user or customer? Think about it. When you buy a cell phone, yes, you're looking at the battery, the screen size, the resolution of the camera, the price, but you're also saying, will it help me make long calls now that I'm on phone most of the day? Will it fit in my pocket or purse? Will it really make me feel good? Especially those of you who love Apple products. So what is the benefit it provides in my life? In this startup's case, the benefit was better returns. I get to build my corpus, maybe get to retire early, who knows? And the next question you must ask, how are you better than the next guy? And by the way, even though this is a new space, plant-based protein, there's enough players and action going on. And as an investor, I was sharing, as an angel investor, I get to see many pitches and presentations from startups, maybe a dozen odd every week. I'm especially wary of startups who say I have no competition. Because if you're saying that, you probably don't understand the business. Because The competition for that particular app, there may not be another app like that, but you are addressing a customer need. Tell me how the customer is meeting those needs today. There's got to be some ways, no? If the customer is trying to save money by putting money in bank or under the mattress, possible competition, right? A bank is a competition for you. Anyhow, so think hard about competition, India, and that's the other issue with a lot of Indian startups. They often think in terms of India. Some of them even think regional. Please, the world is more so now than it was 6 months ago, far more global. A solution that you hit in India will be relevant to the world, and also somebody will outcompete you in Portugal tomorrow if you're not careful. So think hard of competition today and competition tomorrow in the world. Very important. How does the world know that you exist? You created this fantastic plant-based substitute for shrimp. Great. You've tested it, piloted, you got all the certifications, it's healthy, safe, all that stuff. The world doesn't know, other than maybe 10, 20, 30 people around you. How do you take the word out? How do you make the people reach you and then service you and stay with you for the rest of their lives, maybe? Very important. A lot of this is also connected to some of the issues why startups fail. And you see that box there, the other remaining red bullet is about revenues and pricing. And this is really how do you create models of profitability for your business. So let's look at some examples. So you once again see logos. I'm going to give you, while there's overlaps here, I'll give you some revenue model examples. And you tell me which startup it belongs to. So which of the startups here operates mostly on a franchise model and makes money off that? You see those 8 names? Of these 8, who is
People
a
say
franchise?
McDonald's. McDonald's.
And that is, again, warm up, easy, well done. Are there, so rather than describe, I'm going to try to relate to your experience. Some parts of the services are free, or for some time they're free, and then you start paying. Can you think of examples?
People say Netflix. Yeah, and YouTube.
And YouTube.
And Dropbox.
And Dropbox, correct. So actually,
So
you'll find
Netflix,
multiple.
YouTube, and Dropbox.
Yep, perfect answers. Subscription. So you pay upfront per month, per year, and it doesn't matter how much you use. Use 0 or use 100%, doesn't matter.
Everybody says Netflix, almost all of them.
These are Netflix days, no? We are living in an age of Netflix, so that's an easy answer. I think Dropbox also has some kind of subscription service as well.
YouTube as well, people say, yeah.
YouTube as well has, YouTube also has it, correct. Somebody who aggregates service providers. Remember I said multi-sided, double-sided marketplaces? It's a marketplace for services.
Uber and Alibaba, people are saying.
Broadly both, but because it's services, Uber fits more. Alibaba will come in a product basis. We'll come to that. Very interesting business model, revenue model called hook and bait. You want to guess? If I describe it, you'll know who I'm talking about, so I don't want to describe it. Take a guess first.
People are saying Twitter and Alibaba for some reason. I'm not sure either. Twitter.
Okay. So there is a general view that you hook somebody, right? You get used to it because your friends are on it, network effect and all that. Fair, but this is a very specific reference in which you sell one product of yours at a relatively low price, often at cost price, often at a loss, because that purchase leads to purchase other purchases that are on which you make your monies.
People are saying HP now.
Yeah. Think of the last time you bought an HP printer for home. They're super cheap, $2,000-3,000. But try getting a cartridge. Okay, don't do the refill wala cartridge. Try getting an authentic HP cartridge. 6 cartridges, and you pay the price of the printer, right? Because they got you hooked. They got you hooked to their platform. Similarly, if you used pod-based coffee machines, every machine comes with its own size. Nescafe has its own, and somebody other has their own. So their pods are very unique. They'll sell you the machine really, really cheap, $50, $60, $70, $80. Each pod thereafter, I don't know, $1 or so. But you're hooked. So you're right. So in general, businesses will hook you. All businesses will. But hook and bait is sell something cheaper to get the customer hooked to the more expensive product. Product was the Alibaba example that most of you got right. Ads, okay, this is an interesting one. Probably applies to everybody today, but ads. Who makes money, big money off ads, other than Google?
YouTube, Netflix.
Yep, all of them.
All of them.
Either direct ads, or sometimes they will monetize the data legally. Now, we don't know what's happening with all the illegal data, right? Those of us who've seen The Social Dilemma, Netflix program, etc. But anyhow, you can sell data as well. So there's so many different ways. And of course, we didn't talk about it, but plain simple over the counter, buy something for 80 bucks and sell it for 100 bucks. Pure markup model. So there's so many different ways of making money, which is what this box here is: revenue streams and pricing. You figure out, so these guys figure out they're going to work with two. They'll charge commission and they'll have an annual subscription. And often startups use multiple revenue models to figure things out. Usually start with 3, 4, 5, and over time they figure out which ones work best. And sometimes one model works better with, let's say, a rural segment than with an urban segment. So just keep in mind there are many different ways of reaching out to your customers, as there are many different ways of making money. Those are your business models. Now, if you figure these out, actually there's 6 things, not 5. Who's my customer? What do they want in life? What am I making, and how is it better from others, and how will it help the customer's life? And this is how I will reach them, and this is how I'll make money. You've sorted most of your startup issues, at least the early issues. You still need to focus on others, which is the other 6 items, but I would urge you to not get overwhelmed by so many items in this canvas. And if you just focus on these 6 to begin with, maybe for the sake of a proposal, I think you'd be okay. But just to complete the thought, what skills do you need? What kind of physical resources, etc., do you need? What kind of financing, partnership, monitoring systems, planning systems, all that, of course, comes much later. Now, this, if you put together, even if it's real Post-its, and put it up on your wall for a startup, this is like a picture of your startup. No, this is a selfie for your startup. In one shot, you know what you're doing in life. How well you're doing and how to implement all of this, of course, is yet another challenge. But at least from a design angle, you've thought through multiple issues, and hopefully along the way, you've talked to mentors and supporters and incubators and a whole host of partners who, for example, are organizing the workshop today to get the right perspectives. Questions, comments? I'll pause for a moment. Let you soak it all in. So business model canvas, what we're calling startup operating canvas, is a big picture view of your startup with customer and customers' needs at the heart of it. And this hopefully connects with whatever you may have heard in design thinking, right? We said be customer centric. It's both a cultural statement and an operating statement. And this framework will help you do exactly that. If you go left to right, don't do right to left. A lot of people, for example, they begin their startup conversation by this element towards the right. You see that cash, seed funding, raising funds. Without having clarity on the stuff on the left, don't go to the right. Okay, question, comments, Shardul, coming in or not? Shall we go on?
So people are saying how, so again, this is a question specific to the proposal, right? You can certainly use the structure to better think, about your problem statement and think about all other aspects as well. Adding this would make a lot of sense, obviously, in phase 3, because we only have a 5-page proposal this time around. But like I said, all of these points and the parameters that we have thought about right now would definitely help you in better understanding what your idea is. And then you can always expand on it in the next phase. You can obviously use a smaller version of it. Maybe Dr. Batra has some tips here.
Yeah, so so what are the deliverables for this phase? Just highlight a few of them, Shardul, for me. Maybe
Yeah,
you can
sure.
advise.
Just a second, yeah. So basically, This time they have to make a 5-page proposal, and the ID, the parameters that we are going to evaluate them on is this: problem statement, rationale of their solution, product description, process description, originality and novelty of their solution compared to other products in the global and local market, safety and quality considerations, shelf life considerations, economic and commercial feasibility of their product.
Okay, so folks, 8, 9 of these. Now, if you look at problem statement, rationale for your solution also is, why are you getting into it and how is it better than the others? What is the product? What is the solution? Process, as in how do you make the product? Is that what it means, Shardul? Number 5?
Yes, yes,
So how do you actually go from a raw to a finished product, right?
yes.
And how original is it or differentiated is it? Safety and quality, I understand. Shelf life also. Okay, so I think, folks, there are like nine
Yeah.
parameters. 5 or 6, I think, directly can be come from the canvas. So let me show you the canvas again.
There is a specific question. Yes, Dr. Batra, please go ahead. In the meantime, like there is a specific question: how to add commercial feasibility in the product proposal, and if we are not sure about the product price for now, how to go about that, right? So, I mean, if you look at the canvas that comes quite later. Yes, Dr. Batra, go ahead. You wanted to show the canvas. I mean, maybe if you could highlight a little bit on that also.
Sure. So
Yeah, you'll
here's
have
my
to screen
recommendation.
share again. Yeah.
Sorry, is it not sharing right now? No? Okay.
No, it dropped because I.
Yeah. 1 sec. So because then the way I'll answer that question is for at least the 5 or 6 things on that list that you saw. Don't go beyond these things in the canvas, but I recommend you think hard about each of those. Again, you don't have to get down into a lot of details and have 2 pages over each of those, but this 5, 6 things, think about each of those. So Sushmita, the question that you asked, how do I know the pricing of something that I have not developed? But that's the whole point of figuring out, right? Who's the user? Who else is doing it? Maybe there's not direct competition, but who's indirect? How much are they selling for? Maybe it's somebody sitting in Israel who's making, or US is making it, and in general cost of production will be higher. You got to make some assumptions as you go along, right? And say, no, I can do it at 30% cheaper. My market is larger. I'll have greater economies of scale, and hence instead of per unit cost of, let's say, $2, maybe it's $1.20 for me. Again, I think for the sake of a proposal, even if you are off in your number, I think you're okay. I would say you're okay as long as there's a rationale behind your thinking, and it's not just a number you picked out of thin air. That
Exactly.
for India only 20 cents is good, but why? You got to give some benchmark, somewhere. And even if there's no equivalent product, I'm saying even if you have to compare to existing solutions today, look at seafood price today and see shrimp today and a shrimp plant-based tomorrow. There's got to be some rationale, and you can say, yeah, initially it will be a little higher till I get these volumes, and then it'll dip to maybe 70% of the other. As long as there's a logic behind it, and at least general references you can get from around the world, from all the big names who already figured things out. Chances are they all started a little higher, but are hovering down, right, Shardul? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, absolutely correct. That's what we've been telling. So though this is an ideation proposal, and Ajay, the context in India is basically there's not a lot of data in the market. Market is data dark. At the same time, the infrastructure is missing. That's why the focus is on ideation and really thinking out about creative solutions to these problems. And as long as you're validating your thought process with any kind of benchmark, providing citations, or providing some sources for us to kind of understand why you've made those assumptions, all of those are very correct ways of going on about this.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about detail. I wouldn't want you to spend time thinking exactly the kind of Google AdWords campaign you will run. At this stage, doesn't make sense. Don't go there. But do know that, hey, I'm creating a substitute for milk targeting urban residents, and I will reach urban residents through newspapers and flyers and whatever, or the local whatever vendor. put some thought behind it. And the thought cannot be just about product. What I saw on that matrix there in the Excel sheet, everything was not about, there's a lot of stuff on product, right? Why is the product good? How will you make it? How will you do quality assurance? How will you ensure it, transportation, refrigeration issues are sorted? But there was other stuff also, right? How are you placing it in the market? Who else is the player? How will you make money off it? So my strong recommendation is focus on both. Even in product, chances are you'll have to make a lot of assumptions, right? Because we may not have the raw material machinery right now, for example, in India for what you want to do. But do think, I would, again, I'm not on the other side, but if I were evaluating proposal that talked only product and went product deep but market light, I would put a question mark. I would value proposals that are balanced and have very categorically stated the assumptions they've used. And as long as they're sensible assumptions, I think you're okay.
Yep, makes complete sense. And I think a lot of these insights, and in phase 3, I didn't show you the criteria for phase 3. We have more specific parameters like teams who will advance from this round, who can use this canvas to kind of come to costing, about competitive landscape, about just validating their assumptions about the customers. All of those parameters, feasibility, novelty, market and business plan, which has a specific evaluation parameter. So all of those things are in much more detail, and everybody has access to phase 3 evaluation criteria. So like I've always recommended everyone, think of all the insights we share, not just for this 5-page proposal, but also for the next rounds. And obviously you should aim to get into the next round and only then think back and kind of condense some of those learnings and put it together in this space. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Batra.
True, sure. And I will go even beyond that, Shardul. End of the day, you're here because there is at least some initial interest. So I want you to think in terms of what is it that I need to know to decide whether this is worth my time or not. And the deeper you go inside, the more homework you do, the more convinced you will be of your decisions. I mean, being part of the campaign is great. There's a lot of learning in this, but some of you might actually, at least half of you apparently are considering making this a calling for yourselves. So some homework now would help. And so maybe it goes beyond what the proposal calls for.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Okay. So I've seen. Okay, let me change the tone a little bit. And Shardul, please scan if there's any questions that I've left unanswered. But we started with the quiz. Certainly we can keep doing Q&A. But as we are winding down, I wanted to go back into quiz mode again. So the message I want to give is, remember one of the first slides I showed this guy on a cycle, expecting a smooth ride, goes through a lot of ups and downs, finally gets it. Most startups have a vision. They do have an end goal in mind, but invariably things change dramatically along the way. We've all seen the social network, right? What Zuckerberg really wanted to create and what it is today. So tell me, early days of Amazon, what were they doing? Early days.
People are saying books.
And
selling
only
books
books.
online.
And only books, by the way. That's a key point. Today, books plus, they were only books earlier. What do you think YouTube was in its early avatar? Very interesting. A lot of people don't know this.
People are saying all sorts of things: entertainment, songs, videos, free videos without ads, music, a video hosting platform for Google. It started out as that, some people say.
Correct. So
yeah,
video certainly was part of it.
Home videos, people are saying.
Okay, I'm still looking for the answer.
Video sharing, something in entertainment sector. Any other answers? Please send them. We can just take a few seconds. Wow, somebody said online dating, which I don't know.
And bingo! I want to call out that person. Who is it?
It's Prabhu from Niftim.
Prabhu, well done. It absolutely was a video dating site. A lot of people don't know this. And see how
fascinating.
See how far they've gone. Well done. Okay, early days of Twitter. What did it start out to be? Today, of course, they are Trump's favorite toy, but early days they were something else.
People are
That's it.
saying communications messenger.
Yeah, that actually is true. So
Anybody
they,
else, please submit your responses.
yeah, I've already given away the answer, but yeah, they were kind of creating an SMS alternative, which is why the text, the character limitation. No, SMSs were limited those days in number of characters. They were creating a data-based SMS service and became
Got it.
something else
Yeah.
along the way. Early days.
DVD sending VHS. I remember they talked to Blockbuster for getting
Hmm.
acquired. Video
Yep.
rental.
Yeah. So they threw Blockbuster out of business. Blockbuster was you walk into a store and rent a video. Netflix started mailing in DVDs. So you go to the site, pick a DVD, it comes to your house next day, and third day or so, you put it back in the mail and it goes back to them. Really physical mailing back and forth of DVDs. Early days of Flipkart.
Again, people are saying books just like Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. So the model is actually copied from Amazon. Early Flipkart was exact copy of early Amazon, books only, and see where both of them have come. So folks, we are actually at the end of our workshop. I want to pause here to do a couple of things. One, my email is here. I'm happy for you to reach out if there's any questions, conversations about proposal, but hopefully beyond proposal as well. I will, of course, share this PPT with Shardul and Sushmita, so you will have access to it. So, and also, I'm available now for any questions, discussions, comments.
Awesome. So firstly, I ran a quick poll, Ajay, and I asked two questions, simple ones. How much of the content from today's session are people finding useful for, thinking about ideation when it comes to their own solutions and products? And 63% said 80 to 100%, 26% said 60 to 80%. So almost 90% of the people who attended today found 60% of more of the content very relevant for them. And then I asked how much of today's webinar are they finding as new knowledge, which was something they didn't know earlier. And again, 80% have said more than 60% of the content they found definitely new. So this was great. I think people really found this session to be fun, and it has given them a structure to think better about their customers, about their product, and their whole business model in a short way. So I think this was definitely helpful. We can take some questions that are coming in. I would request everyone to submit their questions through the Q&A button. We have about 15 minutes. So what are some factors which get foreshadowed in the background but are also important to succeed in this particular sector other than the key things that you've mentioned today, is a question.
Particularly for this sector?
Yeah, I think they specifically mean for alternative protein sector. So I'll give you some context of taste, price, and convenience. We found that time and again, these are the most important factors. But then after that, I think a lot of these general factors are pertinent for any business in any sector. So from the BMC, would you like to say any other factors that you've not covered today that might be key for somebody to think, especially in the food business?
Yeah, so I would maybe re-emphasize one and bring up another one, which kind of came up in the passing. So with my not very deep understanding, I think the transportation, refrigeration, storage, which is true for all food products, right? But I think we really need to put that as a special thought in our planning and in our costing. Uh, Second thing I want to talk about is in food businesses, especially if your solution is little more expensive than the current option, you might need deeper pockets to sustain, to reach the kind of volume that will either get you the revenues and profits coming in, or you become worthy of investor interest. So don't get alarmed if your solution is a little higher in the marketplace. For this space particularly, and I've seen that for many other solutions, early days are a little bit difficult. I'll give you a classic example. If you recall, when Uber was launched in India now maybe 5 or 6 years ago, uh, The idea was new. The user behavior was not in place. People even actually did some calculation and said, no, it's too expensive. Metro auto is far better. So Uber, because they had the deep pockets, ran a campaign on both sides. They incentivized the customers, you and I, and a ride that would have normally cost 100, we ended up paying $50 for the first, I don't know, 6 months or so. Similarly, on the other side, they incentivized the driver and said, okay, if you're going to be earning, let's say 1,000 rupees a day, I'll give you a bonus. Instead of 1,000, you earn 2,000. And in the early months, almost a year of Uber, drivers making obscene amount of money. I know I personally had my driver quit my job and start Uber because he said he was going to make 4 to 5 times. And he did make. But that was temporary pricing to get the consumer going. And Uber could afford to do it. As a startup, that often is a question we are asked that, how far can I go on the kind of price points we have? Now, good news and bad news. Good news, I'll tell you, because this sector and area is new and because there's been a lot of conversation and interest being generated, speaking as an investor, there's a fair amount of investor interest. So investors want to come in on new ideas at an earlier stage. So possibility of getting early stage funding, I think is high, is my intuitive feel. Bad news is because it's a new field, you have to educate a lot of people, including your investors. So I'm glad you're running through these workshops because you will know more. Chances are your investor will know far less than you. So there's a little bit of that investment of time you will need to make before they start getting excited with what you have. So let me summarize. Long-term viability of the business in this case may actually be long-term. So think hard about bootstrapping and other sources of funding.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And like you predicted correctly, there's a lot of investor interest currently in the country. Again, there are not enough startups who have really delivered on price, taste, and convenience and really solving for those three major criterias. And at the same time, there is definitely a lack of patient capital in many ways for attendees, right? So fixed assets and the kind of investment you would need to get started your food manufacturing. These are high capex intensive businesses a lot of times, right? So you have to think, are there any low hanging fruits which you can target where you don't necessarily have to invest in a lot of these equipments or machinery? Can you lease it out to somebody? Are there any strategic co-manufacturing partnerships? So all of those things are definitely unique to our sector and something you've been educated through all of these webinars in the past couple of months and the phase one as well. So I'll recommend everyone to just go and kind of revisit some of these business or market kind of resources, state of industry reports, and kind of extrapolate a lot of these insights from developing markets as well. Currently, Brazil, a lot of countries in Southeast Asia are really booming with alternative protein products. Sometimes those business conditions and the market kind of is similar to our Indian ecosystem. So think of it on those lines. So Dr. Batra, next question is basically about the use of this tool, specifically the BMC tool, right? Let's just say I first use BMC to kind of have a business model where I'm serving to urban consumer, but later on my consumer itself is shifting, or we are maybe adding a product category for lower income groups or stuff like that. So do we need to go through this entire exercise of BMC again? How is it flexible? How do we keep using it again and again at different stages of business, etc.?
Yeah, good question. Let me quickly add to the earlier comment and then I'll answer this. From a viability angle, I think two parameters that you may also want to keep in mind is that there is now a greater focus on Atmanirbhar beyond a phrase. So government schemes may be opening up in these areas soon, because it is important for us to have this kind of self-reliance. Just keep an eye out for what's happening. Two, I think a lot of the established FMCG kind of players, ITC as an example, or Nestle, might want to get into this space. And one method for them to get in is through acquisition. So sometimes what you have is so good and brilliantly developed and rolled in the market that somebody may actually want to buy you out. Whether you want to do it or not is your call, right? But just keep in mind that, and it's okay for a startup to say, I'm building a great solution product market, I want to get acquired. And that's okay, as long as you're clear why you're doing it and what's your long-term view about the business, etc. Keep that in mind. As far as BMC is concerned, I was trying to actually, through my notes, find out. Beyond Meat had an IPO, right, Shardul? Are we recently?
Yes, one of the most successful IPOs in the past
Anna?
decade when it even comes to tech companies. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was the IPO price and what is the price today? Do you know? Do you have data? I'm just curious.
So I'm not sure, but it rose like many multifold, and now it's currently stabilizing, but it's still very, very successful. I can actually find that out for you till you go to the next point.
Yeah. So that's just May this year, right? They hit the IPO. So just underscoring the point, there is interest and sometimes you got to ride the wave. I think this is the wave right now, early days of the wave. So the sooner you decide what you want to do and which problem you solve and how you solve, I think there are opportunities waiting. So as far as BMC goes, now if you remember, I said BMC, the first thing in a BMC is the customer segment and customer needs. So don't look at BMC in isolation of a customer. A particular customer segment has its own BMC because the pricing, subscription models, outreach channels, the kind of team that you put behind it, the kind of competition you have is different usually. So when you start with a segment, which is customer on the left and a relevant BMC on the side, and you go to a different segment, theoretically it's a new business model canvas, but everything may not be done afresh because certain things are probably common. For example, the solution, maybe 80% of the solution is common. Maybe 70% of the marketing is common. Maybe it's the same team identity that's going to do it. Maybe you don't need to invest in any more machinery. So theoretically, a new customer segment is a new BMC, but don't start afresh. Please learn from whatever else you've had earlier and build on top of that.
Awesome. And just to answer your question, I think it started at $25. That was their offering price. They went up to $240, and currently they stabilized at about $155. So a huge success.
Wow. Still 6x, huh?
Absolutely, yeah, huge success.
And in the middle of the pandemic, all of this.
Absolutely. So that's the thing about this category globally, post-pandemic. So we have a very beautiful report, attendees. You should definitely read it, the State of Industry Plant-Based Report. As you can see, investors are definitely investing more in alternative protein companies. This is the only category where you're seeing news every other week of millions of dollars being raised by some company or the other globally. And that interest is definitely increasing in India. Join us for the Smart Protein Summit just in the first week of October to hear more about this, everyone.
Correct. So great opportunity, but let me just say, don't do it because the market is hot. Really, do it because you want to do it. Because this connects to something deeper inside you. Maybe the scientist in you, maybe the marketer in you, maybe the visionary in you. Because market opportunities will keep coming up, right? So just like plant-based proteins is what we're talking about. In the last 6 months, EdTech has come up big time. Health tech has come up big time. Collaborative solutions have become big time. So they will always be the next big thing. Take this time. I think the fact that the way the program is structured is not just assignments and submission, but also reflection. What is it? Can I learn more and see whether it really resonates with me as a career?
There are a couple of questions which we can quickly cover. One is, can a idea or a business plan for whenever they're thinking about these tools have more than one USP, or is it preferable from an investor perspective that the founder sticks to one USP, or a very focused category that he's trying to solve for? Can they have more than that? And the other is, what are some key elements which you personally as an investor think about, from this platter of different parameters that you can look at that are key to your investment decision?
Okay, both good questions. So again, in the startup world, we use a phrase called "don't boil the ocean." Essentially, it means when you start on embarking on a particular solution or a startup journey, you have so many ideas. And when you really, as I said earlier, once you start peeling the layers of the onion, you would realize that it is not a problem, it is dozens of problems waiting to be solved. But as any entrepreneur, as any startup, unless your last name is Ambani, your resources are limited, time and money. So you have to be focused. This is the problem. This is the solution. This is the market, to begin with at least. Figure it out. There will be learning. It won't be linear. Once you figured out one, then start another. So my simple recommendation is, I won't say USP, but think of fairly well-defined, relatively narrow market solution problem category and go after it. Hopefully you're entering a market in which there isn't that much of established competition. So again, be a 600-pound gorilla in a 3-inch space, not in a football field. Nobody cares. You're going to have 1,000 gorillas in a football field. Find a space, little gap, white space, and be a big player there. The other one was around investment. So I'll give you a general view on investment. It's not specific to this category. An investor, you saw the canvas, right? They were like, I don't know, a dozen odd things in there. As an investor, eventually when I write a check, I would have looked at 100 things. Really, some things we haven't even talked about. Even things like, is there an agreement between founders? Do you hold IPR? Do you have patents? We want to look at your office lease and figure out whose name it is in your tax return. It gets messy. But the whole journey of deciding to invest in a company, for me, and normally it is, I will go and watch a pitch for like 3, 4, 5 minutes. And I want to go deeper. There's just two or three things that I need to hear in that first pitch. One, I got to like the team. Sorry, it might sound a little personal, subjective, but I got to like them as who they are. Do they bring energy, confidence, passion? They may not have all the answers, but they'll figure it out. And you get that sense. It's like hiring people, right? They say when you're hiring people, you may run an interview for 5 minutes, but you actually made your decision in the first 5 minutes, and the remaining 55, you're just validating it. Same with pitches. So team got to click. Your solutions got to click. You should have thought of something that is, wow, nobody's thought of that, or very few people have thought of that. So there has to be a sense of novelty, if you will. Flipkart did what they did, then they were copying Amazon model. Today, a copycat will not work. World has changed. The investors have become much, much smarter. So is there something unique in what you're bringing to the table? And 3, which is why I said, even for proposals, think a little bit about numbers. Third, end of the day, think about it. I'm an investor, right? If I'm going to give you $100, the reason I'm giving you not just because you're good guys, is because someday you'll give me $500 back, right? So third element is, are the economics of what they're saying making sense broadly? In 3 minutes, I don't know. I have not looked at the plans. I have not looked at the cash flow statements or P&Ls. But in a 3 to 5 minute pitch, I should say, sounding sensible to me. They're making something for $70 and selling for 120. I think there's something in it. Let me go deeper. So 3 things I'll repeat: team dynamics; 2, novelty, uniqueness; 3, basic economics.
Got it. Thank you. I think we can just have a couple more questions. We started like 5 minutes late, but these all companies in our sector, Dr. Batra, are usually focused on social marketing, right? Social good. That is also a key element. So how much of that social marketing around a social good or a social cause that these startups are kind of bringing, how much of that is relevant in our market? Do people care about these things in India? Investors and consumers both? And or do we think we should just stick to more economical ways of valuating businesses?
I'll give you a general comment on that first. In general, marketing is not what we still continue to teach. Very in your face, all of that. You look at it today, right? Most of our information sources are online, and we are bombarded. Nobody really cares about an ad, TVs, etc. Dekhte hain sab log, but it's really very hard to get to a consumer's mind. So the general movement of marketeers these days is that let's not market what we do. Let's actually help educate or inform or help the customer. So, which is why this whole blogging industry has come about. That okay, for example, I'm India Organics. I make these immunity boosting herbal, whatever amla drugs, right? Medicines. And in COVID environment, everybody's scared. Everybody wants to build immunity. I can either do a hard advertising. Okay, eat 2 tablets a day and you'll be better prepared. Or I'll say, you know what? Let me write an article every day. How's amla good for arthritis? how's whatever Nimbu good for something else. So you are educating the customer. Customer will come in and the brand gets built through this confidence. And you know what? These guys actually say right things. They're not necessarily peddling me their product. They're helping me become better at whatever I'm doing in life. So in general, socializing around what customer care is about is far more important than selling your product. It is particularly true in this industry because the industry is new. So I think you'll end up spending a lot of your time in organic and inorganic education, awareness, orientation. You may think of it as an expense. I'll tell you there's an opportunity in this as well because many people don't know, including, by the way, I worked for many years with Times of India. Media doesn't know. So if you establish your credibility, media will come and say, hey, can you write a short article on whatever, plant-based meats and its effect on people with this heart condition. So please establish yourself not as a product star, but as a thought leader star. And there's be enough, at least in this space, enough organic opportunities to talk about what you do. Interestingly, completely unrelated, the Savart example I was sharing with everybody, fintech startup, 2 years old, managing about 150 crores today, has spent 0 rupees on marketing, 0. But is really good in going to TEDs and TEDx's and speaking. He writes blogs, he does LinkedIn, newspapers interview him, and he's just using that to spread the word. So, short answer, for you in this space, it will be a combination of educating your consumer and some traditional marketing.
Absolutely. I think that perspective ties up very well into what we also suggest. And I think people are more interested in some of these views. Definitely go back and watch the recording from webinar 1 with Dhruvi and Raji about consumer and market insights. We've talked and also given some case studies about specific companies like Oatly doing great with their marketing, plant-based dairy. Awesome. I think our session was very useful and we are kind of running out of time. In the last couple of minutes, I just request Sonia or Sushmita to just give in their perspectives as well from what we've learned today in the session. Any parting thoughts, Sushmita and Sonia, before we close down the webinar?
Sure, Shardul. Sushmita, shall I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Dr. Ajay Batra. I mean, the session was very engaging, and also thank you to all our participants. I mean, the participation from the attendees today was, I think, very exciting, very, interesting to learn about their thoughts and how do they see the sector. And also seeing them learn from this session was very interesting for us. So what I personally feel is that this entire session would not just help you during phase 2 of this challenge, but also something that you could learn and utilize during phase 3. Perhaps even after today's session, you could brainstorm this entire whatever learnings that we shared with your team members and maybe refine your thought processes. So I think it was an excellent session and a lot of things to take away. Thank you.
Sonia. Sushmita?
Great. I mean, I concur with Sonia. Thank you, Ajay. It was an amazing session. I'm sure every participant got to learn something or the other, and a lot of takeaways, lot of things to actually think through. Not only from the proposal point of view, but yes, for the proposal definitely. But the ideas they have been working with, they want to take forward, or the field they want to work with. The people they actually need to talk and how to talk about the things that they are excited about. So many thanks to you for coming up with customizing this entire session. And thank you to all the participants for joining in today. Feel free to reach out to us for any of the questions you have. I know 1.5 hours is not enough to deal with all your questions, but we look forward to your proposals, your questions, and a lot of interesting ideas. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again, CICO, for helping us arrange this. And I think, Ajay, your expertise in just helping people understand about such complex topics in a such fun way has definitely been appreciated throughout. And I'm going to share these learnings with all of them. Feel free to send me a deck that I can circulate as well with the attendees. And thank you so much for your time today. Any parting thoughts?
Well, thank you for organizing it. Like I said, I was looking forward to interacting and with everyone. And while I couldn't quite hear or see people, but from what you were reading from chat, I'm thankful that you everybody contributed, and it's a learning journey we're all on. And I hope to stay connected. And I want to wish everyone good luck, certainly for this project, but going forward in general as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so
Thank
much, everyone.
you. Thank
Have a,
you.
have a
Thank you.
great day ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Good night. Take care.